The winter moon of Kethros VII was the coldest place in the known galaxy. The Velori had lived there for 10,000 years. They were tall creatures covered in thick silver fur. Their eyes glowed like amber fire in the darkness. They walked on 4 legs but could stand on 2 when needed. The Velori were proud warriors. They believed suffering made the young strong. Every generation, when the ice storms came, the elders would send the cubs into the frozen wilderness. This was called the Trial of Frost. The cubs had to survive 3 days alone in temperatures that could freeze metal. Many did not return. The elders said this was natural. The weak ones were not meant to live. Only the strong deserved to carry the Velori bloodline forward. This year, 7 cubs were chosen for the trial. Their names were Kira, Thorn, Miska, Vel, Boro, Yenna, and Little Pax. Pax was the smallest of them all. His fur was thin and pale. The elders had argued about sending him. Some said he would die within the first hour. But the law was clear. All cubs of age must face the trial. The cubs were pushed out of the warm caves just as the sun disappeared behind the frozen mountains. The wind hit them like a wall of knives. Kira, the oldest, tried to keep the group together. She had heard stories from survivors. They said you must keep moving. You must find shelter. You must never stop believing you will see the sunrise. They walked for hours through the endless white. The snow reached their bellies. Little Pax kept falling behind. Thorn carried him on his back for a while, but even Thorn grew tired. The cold was eating their strength like a hungry beast. Then Miska saw something strange in the distance. It was a light, not the cold blue light of the ice caves. This light was warm and orange. It flickered like a living thing. The cubs had never seen anything like it. Vel wanted to run toward it. Boro said it could be a trap. The ice demons of old legends sometimes used false lights to lure prey, but Kira made the decision. They would die out here anyway. At least the light offered a chance. They approached slowly. As they got closer, they saw the source of the light. It was a small structure made of metal and glass. Smoke rose from a pipe on top, and sitting outside the structure, wrapped in thick clothing, was a creature they had only heard about in stories. A human. The human was female. She had brown skin and dark hair that poked out from under her hood. She was cooking something over the orange light. The orange light, they realized, was fire. Real fire. The Velori had forgotten how to make fire long ago. They had evolved to survive the cold instead. The human looked up and saw the cubs standing at the edge of the light. She did not scream or run. She did not reach for a weapon. She simply smiled and waved them closer. The cubs did not move. They had been taught that aliens were dangerous. Humans especially were said to be unpredictable. They had conquered half the galaxy not through strength, but through strange cleverness. The elders warned that humans could not be trusted. But Little Pax was too cold to care about warnings. He stumbled forward and collapsed near the fire. The human made a sound of concern and rushed to him. She picked him up gently and carried him inside the metal structure. The other cubs followed. They could not abandon Pax. Inside the structure, the warmth hit them like a wave. It was almost painful after so long in the cold. The human had wrapped Pax in a thick blanket and placed him near a glowing machine that produced heat. She was speaking softly to him in her strange language. Pax's eyes were closed, but he was breathing. The human turned to the other cubs. She pointed to herself and said a word. "Maya." She said it again. "Maya." They understood. It was her name. Kira stepped forward carefully. She touched her own chest and said, "Kira." The human smiled wide, showing her flat teeth. She pointed at each cub in turn, and they each gave their names. Soon Maya was repeating the names back, learning them quickly. Maya brought out food, strange dried meat and warm liquid in metal cups. The cubs hesitated, but hunger won over fear. They ate everything. The food was strange, but good. The warm liquid made their bodies feel alive again. As the wind howled outside, Maya showed them around her small home. She had come to Kethros 7 to study the ice formations. She was a scientist. She had been alone here for many months. She showed them pictures of her home world, green and blue and covered in water. The cubs could not imagine such a place. Night deepened. Maya created sleeping areas for each cub, soft blankets and padded mats on the floor. The cubs had never slept on anything soft. In the caves, they slept on cold stone. This felt wrong but also wonderful. Yenna was the first to fall asleep, then Boro and Vel. Thorn tried to stay awake, watching Maya with suspicious eyes, but soon even he surrendered to exhaustion. Kira was the last one awake. She watched Maya move around the structure, checking on each cub, adjusting blankets, adding more heat when the wind grew stronger. Kira had a thought that felt like betrayal. This human cared more about their survival than the elders did. She slept. The next morning, Maya woke them with more food. Hot this time, with steam rising from bowls. The cubs ate together around the fire. Little Pax was awake now. He was still weak, but color had returned to his face. He kept looking at Maya with wonder in his eyes. Maya tried to communicate with them. She drew pictures in the frost on the window. She drew the caves where the Valori lived. She drew the path through the snow. She drew a question mark. She wanted to know why they were out here. Kira understood. She took Maya's drawing tool and drew 7 small figures walking away from the caves. She drew the cold wind. She drew some of the figures falling. She drew an X over the ones who fell. Maya's face changed. Her eyes grew wet. Water leaked from them and ran down her cheeks. The cubs had never seen this before. Valori did not produce water from their eyes. Kira did not understand what it meant, but she felt that Maya was experiencing pain. Maya pointed at the drawing of the fallen cubs. She shook her head. She made the word no several times. Then she pointed at all 7 cubs standing in her home. She nodded. She made the word yes. Her message was clear. She would not let them fall. That day, Maya taught them many things. She showed them how to make fire using tools. She showed them how to build shelter from snow. She showed them how to find water under the ice. These were survival skills, real skills, not the cruel test of simply throwing children into the cold and hoping some would live. The cubs learned quickly. They were not stupid. They were just young and untrained. By evening, even little Pax could start a small fire on his own. He looked so proud that Kira felt her heart squeeze. On the second night, the storm grew worse. The wind screamed like dying animals. The metal structure shook. Maya stayed calm. She had built her shelter well. She had prepared for this. The cubs gathered close together. Old instinct told them to share warmth, but there was enough warmth here. They did not need to huddle for survival. They huddled because it felt good, because they wanted to be near each other. Maya sat nearby, reading something on a glowing pad. She looked up and saw them watching her. She hesitated, then moved closer. She sat at the edge of their group. Slowly, little Pax crawled over and leaned against her. Maya looked surprised. Then she put her arm around him. One by one, the other cubs moved closer too. Soon they were all pressed together in a warm pile, with Maya at the center. She was laughing softly. That wet stuff came from her eyes again. But she was smiling, so Kira decided it must mean something good. They slept like that. Together, warm, safe. The third morning came. The trial was over. The cubs should return to the caves now. The elders would be waiting to see who survived. But Kira did not want to go back. She looked at her companions. She saw the same feeling in their eyes. In the caves, they would return to cold stone beds, to elders who thought pain was love, to a life where they had to prove their worth by suffering. Here, there was warmth. There was food. There was Maya, who had shown them kindness without asking anything in return. Kira spoke to the group. She asked them what they wanted. For the first time in their young lives, someone was asking what they wanted. The vote was unanimous. They wanted to stay. Maya seemed to understand. She pointed at the caves in the distance. She raised her eyebrows in question. Kira shook her head. Maya pointed at her structure, at the cubs, at herself. Kira nodded. Maya thought for a long moment. Then she smiled and nodded too. She started making plans. She drew pictures showing a bigger shelter, more rooms, more food supplies. She drew pictures of the cubs growing older, growing stronger. She drew them learning, exploring, building. She was offering them a future. Of course, it would not be simple. Maya contacted her people using a communication device. She spoke in her language for a long time. The cubs heard her voice grow firm, then soft, then firm again. She was fighting for them. They did not understand the words, but they understood the fight. Finally, Maya turned to them with another smile. She gave a gesture that seemed to mean success. Help was coming. More humans who would bring supplies. They would help build a proper home. The cubs would have to learn the human language. They would have to adjust to new ways. But they would be warm. They would be fed. They would be valued. A week later, the elders sent scouts to find out what happened to the cubs. The scouts found Maya's expanded shelter. They found the 7 cubs inside, healthy and strong. They found the cubs speaking broken human words and laughing with the alien woman. The lead scout demanded the cubs return. It was law. Cubs who survived the trial must return to serve the tribe. Kira walked forward. She stood tall on her back legs, which she had never done before. She looked the scout in the eyes and spoke clearly. They had survived the trial. They had proven their strength. But strength was not just about surviving cold. Strength was about choosing your own path. They chose this path. They chose warmth. They chose the human. The scout was shocked. No cub had ever defied the elders. He threatened consequences. He threatened punishment for Maya. He threatened war. Maya stepped forward then. She was small compared to the Velori. Her body had no fur, no claws, no natural weapons. But she stood between the scout and the cubs without fear. She spoke in broken Velori, words she had learned from the cubs. She said the cubs were under her protection now. She said her people would stand with her. She said the galaxy was watching. The scout looked at Maya. He looked at the cubs standing behind her. He saw something in their eyes that he had never seen in young Velori before. He saw hope. He left. He returned to the caves and told the elders what he had seen. The elders debated for many days. Some wanted to attack. Some wanted to negotiate. Some wanted to pretend the cubs had never existed. In the end, they did nothing. They could not risk war with humans over 7 cubs. And secretly, some of the elders wondered if the cubs had found something real out there in the cold. Something the Velori had forgotten. Years passed. Maya's research station grew into a small settlement. More humans came. Some Velori came too, the ones who were tired of the old ways. They learned from each other. They built something new. The 7 cubs grew into adults. Kira became a leader in the settlement. Thorn became a teacher. Miska became an engineer. Vel became a pilot. Boro became a healer. Yenna became an artist. And Little Pax, who should have died in the cold, became a bridge between species. He spoke both languages perfectly. He helped others understand each other. They never forgot that night when the elders sent them into the cold. They never forgot how they chose to sleep warm beside the human instead. And when they had cubs of their own, they did not send them into the frost. They wrapped them in blankets. They held them close. They taught them that love was not proven through suffering. The old ways died slowly, but they died, and something warmer took their place. Maya grew old among friends. When her time came, all 7 of her adopted children were at her side. They buried her on Kethros 7th, in a garden they had built to grow earth flowers in the snow. On her grave marker, they wrote words in both languages. She found us in the cold. She taught us about warmth. She was our mother. She was human. And the flowers bloomed even in winter.